The planet 442b burned under attack. Smoke rose from broken cities and torn ground. The people watched their world die piece by piece. They were not warriors. They were scholars, artists, and builders. Their hands made music and science, not weapons. Ambassador stood in the underground bunker and looked at the ancient broadcast equipment. His thin frame shook with fear and exhaustion. Around him, others worked frantically to send out their message. Their blue skin had turned pale. Their large eyes showed nothing but despair. The ships filled the sky above them. Those ships were huge and dark and terrible. They dropped fire from space and sent ground troops across the planet. There were warriors and conquerors. They had taken many worlds. Now they wanted 442b. They wanted its resources, its cities, and they wanted to wipe out anyone who stood in their way. Press the transmission button. His voice shook as he spoke into the ancient device. This is Ambassador of the people. We are under attack. The Dominion has invaded our world. They kill our children. They burn our homes. We are not fighters. We are not soldiers, but we will not die without calling out for help. He stopped and took a breath. His hands trembled. We have studied the humans of Earth. They call themselves Terrans. They are young as a species. Their world is harsh and unforgiving. They are small and fragile compared to many galactic powers, but they are fierce. They protect what is theirs. They fight for those they love. They do not back down from danger. Outside the bunker, explosions shook the ground. A section of the wall collapsed. Dust filled the air. The workers did not stop their work. They knew they were likely to die. They sent the message anyway. Continued his plea. Humans of Earth, if you hear this, we ask for your help. We ask you to remember that you are not the only ones who suffer. You are not the only ones who lose loved ones to war. We have families. We have children. We have art and music and stories we want to pass down. They will destroy all of that. They will kill everyone on this world. They will erase us from the galaxy. He looked at the faces around him. Young, old, all of them afraid. I do not know if you will come. I do not know if you will risk your soldiers for a species you have never met, but I ask you anyway. I ask because you are known as protectors. I ask because you are known as the ones who stand against darkness. Please hear our cry. Please come help us. Please save the people. The transmission ended. Did not know if anyone was listening. The signal would take time to reach Earth, years even. They would not survive that long. Across space, on the planet Earth, the message arrived at a military station on the edge of the solar system. A young technician named Jacob listened to the words. He had never heard a plea like this before. His hands shook as he recorded the message and sent it up the chain of command. The message reached Commander Davis in a secure briefing room. He was a big man with gray in his hair and lines on his face from years of leading soldiers into danger. He had seen war before. He had lost good people before. But he had never heard anything like the desperation in his voice. Davis played the message 3 times. Each time, the weight of it pressed down on him more. These were not soldiers asking for military support. These were scientists and artists and families asking to survive. In the communications center, Captain heard the message too. She was smart and fast and good at reading people, even when those people were not human. She understood what the message meant. They were going to die without help. There was no way around that simple fact. Sir, she said to Commander Davis, we need to move on this. Every day we wait is another day that has to consolidate their position. Davis nodded. He was already thinking the same thing. He called together the senior officers and played the message for them. The room was silent when it ended. These were hard military people who had done hard things, but no one in that room could listen to his voice and feel nothing. They are asking for our help, Davis said. They are not warriors. They cannot fight They will kill everyone on that planet if we do not intervene. Captain spoke up. Sir, the question is not whether they need help. The question is whether we have the right to risk human lives for aliens we have never met. Davis looked at her. Do we have the right not to? Do we look into the face of death and turn away? The room stayed quiet. They are defenseless, Davis continued. They are scholars and artists. They have families. They have everything to lose. If we are the species we claim to be, the species that values all life, then we cannot abandon them. He stood up and walked to the communication panel. I am recommending immediate deployment to 442B. I am requesting every available military asset. If the Council approves, we launch in 48 hours. The higher command took the decision to the Council. The debate was short but serious. Some members said the distance was too great, the risk too high. Some said Earth should focus on its own protection, but most of them listened to his voice and understood the truth. Humanity had learned to be protectors. That was part of who they were. The Council approved the deployment. In the barracks, soldiers got their orders. Private Oliver Grant was from a small town in Colorado. He was young and strong, and he had joined the Marines to do something bigger than himself. When he heard about the mission, he did not hesitate. He packed his gear and prepared for launch. We are going to save people, said Sergeant Mitchell, Grant's squad leader. We are going to save a species from extinction. That is what we do. That is who we are. The ships were loaded with soldiers, supplies, and weapons. The countdown began. In the bunker on 442B, and the other did not know what would happen. They did not know if the humans had even received their message. They did not know if anyone cared about their dying world. But they knew one thing was certain. If help did not come, they would all be dead very soon. The human ships fired their engines and began their journey across the stars. They were going to travel faster than they had ever traveled before. They were going to take risks with their ships and their crews. They were going to do it to answer the cry of a desperate people they had never met. Because that was what humans did when they heard someone calling for help in the darkness. They came. They came to fight. They came to protect. They came because it was the right thing to do. The ship HMCS Valiant cut through space like a knife. Inside, thousands of human soldiers prepared for war. The journey would take weeks instead of the normal months because of the push through space. Every system in the ship worked at maximum. Every crew member pushed themselves to the limit. Private Oliver Grant stood in the training room with his squad. They ran through combat drills. They checked weapons. They talked about what they would face when they arrived at 442B. None of them had fought an alien enemy before. None of them knew what to expect. Sergeant Mitchell watched them work. He was a big man with dark skin and hard eyes. He had been a soldier for 20 years. He had lost friends in 3 different wars. But this mission felt different to him. This was not about territory or politics. This was about saving lives. Listen up, Mitchell said to the squad. They are not fighters. They are scholars and scientists. They have never fought a real war. That means they are going to be pushing them hard. We get there, and we need to slow them down long enough for them to organize their people and move them to safety. We do that, we do our job. Grant raised his hand. Sergeant, what if they are too strong for us? Mitchell looked at him. Then we die trying, but we do not run, we do not quit. We stand there and we hold the line until they are safe. That is what we do. In the medical section, Dr. Lane prepared for what was coming. She had been a military doctor for 15 years. She had seen terrible injuries. She had lost patients despite everything she could do. But she knew what was coming on 442B was going to be bad. Very bad. She looked at her medical staff. There were only 20 of them. They had prepared as much as they could, but nothing really prepared you for mass casualties from a war with aliens. Stock more blood, she told her head nurse. Stock more bandages, stock everything. When the fighting starts, we are going to have people flooding in here faster than we can move them. In the communications center, Captain monitored the ongoing broadcasts from 442B. The situation was getting worse every day. The push deeper into territory. More cities fell. More people died. One broadcast was from a family hiding in the ruins of their home. The mother held her 2 children as ships passed overhead, had to listen to the fear in their voices, knowing that she could not help them yet. Not yet, but soon. She sent a message down to the soldiers. "We are 4 days out. The situation on the ground is critical. Every hour we save might save lives. Rest when you can. We need you sharp when we land." Commander Davis stood in his quarters and looked at the reports. The military assessment was clear. They had complete control of the planet's orbital space. They had established military bases across the main continents. They had air superiority and ground superiority. Against any normal enemy, the situation would be hopeless. But they did not know what they were facing. They had never fought humans before. They had no idea that humans had survived on a harsh world. They did not know that humans had a gift for improvisation and adaptation. They did not know that humans would never surrender, no matter how bad things looked. Davis made his plan. When the Valiant arrived, they would not engage directly at first. They would land on the far side of the planet, away from the main forces. They would make contact with Then they would begin the real work. They would take the fight to in ways they would not expect. 3 days out from 442B, Davis called a full briefing for all officers and senior personnel. He stood before them in the main briefing hall. "They are counting on us," he said. "Right now, on the other side of the galaxy, there are innocent people dying because they cannot defend themselves. We have the power to save them. We have the skill. We have the will. That is what we are going to do." He pointed to the tactical display showing the positions. They believe they have already won. They think they will surrender or die. They do not know we are coming. That is our first advantage. The second advantage is that we are human. We are adaptable. We are fighters. They will not expect the kind of resistance we are going to give them. Private Grant listened to the commander and felt something settle in his chest. Fear was still there, but so was determination. He was going to fight. He was going to do everything he could to help them survive. The Valiant broke through the outer atmosphere of 442B 2 days later. The planet was beautiful below them, blue and green and full of life. But the planet was also burning. Smoke rose from 100 cities. Fire covered the ground. They had not been gentle. The ship descended in a remote region, far from positions. As the landing gear touched down, Grant felt the vibration of the massive ship settling onto alien soil. "This is it," Sergeant Mitchell said. "This is why we came. Now we go to work." The soldiers deployed from the landing ship in perfect formation. They moved through the landscape in squads and platoons. Their weapons were ready. Their eyes scanned the horizon for any sign of movement. They made their way to the defensive position. When they saw the human soldiers arrive, something shifted in them. They had sent their message into the void, not really believing anyone would answer. But humans had answered. Humans had come across light years of space to help. Ambassador walked forward to meet Commander Davis. He was thin and tall, with blue skin and large eyes. He looked fragile compared to the human soldiers around him, but his eyes held hope for the first time since the invasion began. "You came," said to Davis. "You actually came." "We came," Davis replied, "and we are not going to let them destroy your people." Moved forward and did something unexpected. He put his hand on Davis's arm. It was a gesture of deep gratitude and respect. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for answering our call. Thank you for risking your people for us. I do not have words enough to express what this means." Davis looked at the ambassador. He saw the fear and the hope mixed together in those large eyes. "We do not save people because it is easy," Davis said. "We save people because it is right. They are attacking innocents. We are here to stop them. That is what humanity does." Over the next hours, the human forces worked with the military leaders to plan their strategy. It was immediately clear that the humans had advantages they had not expected. Humans could move faster, think faster, and fight harder than the combination of human fighters and knowledge of their own world could actually work. "We hit them here," Davis said, pointing to a major position. "And here and here. We do not give them time to adapt. We do not give them a moment to rest. We push and push until they realize this fight is not going to be easy." As night fell on 442b, the human soldiers rested and prepared their weapons. They were afraid, but they were ready. Tomorrow the real fighting would begin. Tomorrow they would learn if humans could truly stand against the Dominion. But tonight, Private Grant fell asleep thinking about the families he had seen, about the children hiding in the ruins, about the reason they had come to this alien world. They came to protect the innocent. They came to be the strength that the weak did not have. Tomorrow they would prove that humanity was worthy of that role. The first light of dawn came to 442b, and with it came the sound of weapons firing. The human attack began at multiple points across the occupation zone. It was sudden and violent and unexpected. Private Oliver Grant moved with his squad through a destroyed industrial zone. The ground was broken and scattered with debris. Ahead of them, soldiers dug in behind fortified positions. The aliens were huge, nearly 3 meters tall, with tough gray skin and multiple arms. They looked like something from a nightmare. "Contact," Sergeant Mitchell called out. 200 meters moving left." The squad took cover behind rubble and concrete barriers. Grant gripped his rifle and tried to control his breathing. This was it. This was real combat. This was not a drill. They were real and they were trying to kill him. Mitchell gave the order to fire. The sound was deafening. The positions erupted as human bullets found their marks. Grant fired at a soldier moving across the open ground. The bullets hit. They fell. Grant had just killed something for the first time in his life. There was no time to think about it. More soldiers appeared. The fight became a chaos of movement and noise and the constant pressure of trying to stay alive. Grant moved when Mitchell ordered him to move. He fired when he saw targets. He pushed forward with his squad through the destruction. Around them, other human units were doing the same thing. They attacked with precision and speed. The used to overwhelming enemies with superior technology and numbers found themselves facing soldiers who would not break and would not retreat. Commander Davis moved through the battle zone, directing the assault. He was not sitting in a command post. He was on the ground where he could see what was happening and make decisions based on what he saw. "Bravo Squad moved to the eastern ridge," he said into his radio. "Charlie Squad, hold your position and provide covering fire. This is going to work. Keep the pressure on them. Do not give them a moment to organize." The commanding officer, a huge creature named Hal, realized something was very wrong. The humans were fighting like nothing he had ever encountered. They took casualties and kept fighting. They adapted to changing situations in seconds. They showed no fear. Hal had conquered 12 worlds. He had never faced an enemy like this. An enemy that fought with no regard for their own safety, that seemed to get stronger as the battle went on instead of weaker. An enemy that would gladly die to accomplish their mission. At the main command post, Hal ordered reinforcements to move against the human position. But the humans were not where they were supposed to be. They had already moved. They had attacked from a different direction. By the time the reinforcements arrived, the humans were gone, hitting another target miles away. Private Grant and his squad reached the objective, an ammunition depot. The soldiers guarding it put up a fight, but they were outnumbered by the human soldiers who had chosen this moment, this place, for their assault. The explosives were set. The depot went up in a massive explosion that could be seen from miles away. "Fall back," Mitchell ordered. "We move now, all squads phase 2. Grant ran back toward their position, his legs burning, his lungs screaming. Behind them, the explosion continued to blow up supplies and weapons. The human soldiers had struck a real blow. But they were adapting. They began to consolidate their forces. They pulled troops from across the planet to deal with the human threat. This was what Davis had wanted. While they gathered their forces, the civilians were being evacuated from the occupation zones. The humans were buying time with their blood. Dr. Lane worked in the field hospital, moving from one wounded soldier to another. The casualties came in faster than she could help them. Torn arms, burned faces, internal injuries that no amount of skill could fix. She did everything she could, but people died anyway. Young people, good people, who had come across the galaxy to save a species they had never met. A soldier named was brought in with a wound that would kill him. Did everything she could, but it was not enough. She held his hand as he died, and she felt the weight of every human life that she could not save. "We are losing people," she told her staff. "We are losing a lot of people. Keep working, keep fighting. They are dying out there to save we owe it to them to save who we can." The battle raged for 3 days straight. The human soldiers did not stop. They did not rest. They fought with an intensity that they could not match. They were trained soldiers, but they were not fighting for survival. The humans were. They were their responsibility, and humans took that responsibility seriously. On the second day, Private Grant was in a squad fight in the ruins of a city. They were holding a bridge against a counterattack. The soldiers kept coming, wave after wave. The humans kept firing and bodies piled up on both sides. A soldier broke through Grant's position. It was huge and fast, and it raised one of its arms to strike at him. Grant did not think. He moved on pure instinct. He twisted to the side, and this blow missed him by centimeters. Grant brought his rifle up and fired point-blank into the creature's face. It fell. "Keep that line," Mitchell shouted. "Do not let them through, hold it." They held it. They held that bridge for hours against overwhelming odds. 3 of Grant's squad mates died. Grant watched them fall. He kept fighting anyway. Because behind them were families trying to escape. Because if the line broke, those families died. By the 3rd day, they began to realize the truth. They were not winning. Against these humans, they were losing. For the first time since Hal began his career as a military commander, he faced a choice. He could commit everything to trying to defeat the humans, but the cost would be terrible. Or he could accept that this world was no longer worth the price. Hal made his decision. He ordered his forces to withdraw. It was not a retreat. It was a strategic pullback, but it meant leaving 442B. When the forces began their withdrawal, the human soldiers realized what had happened. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had driven back the Commander Davis stood on a hill overlooking the landing zone. The ships were rising into the sky. More than half his soldiers were dead or wounded. They had lost millions. But the invasion had been stopped. The people would survive. Private Grant sat on a piece of rubble, exhausted beyond anything he had ever experienced. His uniform was torn and stained with blood and dirt. His hands would not stop shaking. He had killed. He had watched his friends die. He had seen things that would haunt his dreams. But he had also saved lives, because they were leaving, because they could come out of hiding, because children would get to grow up on their own world instead of dying under occupation. Ambassador walked across the battlefield toward Commander Davis. The ambassador's face showed the cost of the battle. He had lost thousands of his people, but he had not lost everything. His people would survive. "Thank you," said. "Thank you for what you have done. Humanity will never be forgotten on 442B. We will teach our children about the day the humans came from across the stars to save us. We will tell them that in the darkness, humans answered our call. That when we were desperate, humans showed us what true courage is." Davis looked at his soldiers emerging from the destroyed landscape. They were bloodied and exhausted, and many of them would never be the same after what they had seen. But they had done what they came to do. "We came because you asked for help," Davis said. "We stayed because it was the right thing to do. That is what humans do. We protect the innocent. That is what we are." Smoke cleared slowly from 442B. The battle was over, but the damage remained. Broken buildings stretched across the landscape. Graves had to be dug for the dead. They emerged from their hiding places and looked at their destroyed world. Commander Davis stood in the command tent and read the casualty reports. 2,000 human soldiers dead. Another 4,000 wounded. Some would never walk again. Some would never see again. Some would never be the same in their minds. He had known the cost would be high when he made the decision to come, but reading the numbers made it real in a way that planning never could. 2,000 people, 2,000 lives ended, 2,000 families that would receive messages telling them their loved ones were not coming home. "Sir," Captain said, entering the tent, "the casualty lists are complete. We also have preliminary reports on losses." Davis looked up. "How bad?" "Very bad, sir. They lost at least 3 million civilians during the occupation, maybe more. They did not care about the rules of war. They killed anyone they found." Davis closed his eyes for a moment. 3 million. He had come to save and 3 million of them had died anyway. He had saved the rest, but the cost had been terrible. In the medical facility, Dr. Lane worked without sleeping. There were not enough beds. There were not enough supplies. There were not enough hands to care for all the wounded. Soldiers lay on the floor because there was nowhere else to put them. She moved from one bed to another. A young man from California had lost both his legs to a blast. She had to tell him that he would never run again, never dance again, never walk without help. The young man cried. She held his hand because there was nothing else she could do. Another soldier, a woman named Lisa, had burns covering half her body. Cleaned the wounds and tried to keep the soldier comfortable, but she knew infection was likely. She knew Lisa would probably die. She kept working anyway because there was always a chance, always a small possibility that people could survive. Sergeant Mitchell visited his wounded squad members. He found Private Grant sitting alone outside the medical facility. Grant was staring at his hands like they belonged to someone else. "How you doing, kid?" Mitchell asked. Grant did not answer for a long moment. "I killed people, Sergeant. A lot of people. I watched them die. I watched my squad mates die." "Yeah," Mitchell said. He sat down next to Grant. "That is what happens in war. Good people kill other people. It does not make you a bad person. It makes you a soldier." "Does it get easier?" Grant asked. "No," Mitchell said honestly. "It does not get easier. You just get better at living with it. You remember why you did it. You remember the families that are alive because you pulled that trigger. You do not forget the people who died, but you also do not drown in the guilt." Grant looked at his squad leader. "Are we the good guys, Sergeant? Are we the ones who did the right thing?" Mitchell thought about that question. It was the question every soldier asked themselves after they had seen real combat and real death. "I think we are," he said finally. "They were going to kill everyone on this planet. We stopped them. Some of us died doing it, but millions of did not have to die. Yeah, I think we are the good guys, but being good does not mean we do not have to live with what we did." Ambassador visited Commander Davis in the command tent. The ambassador looked broken. His people had survived, but the cost had been almost too much to bear. "I do not know how to thank you," said. "My people lost millions. Your people lost thousands. And I can only say thank you, which seems like an insult to the sacrifice you made." Davis stood and looked at "We came because you asked for help. We fought because it was the right thing to do. That is what humans do. We do not ask for thanks. We do what we think is right." "But the cost," said. "So many dead, so much pain." "Yes," Davis agreed. "That is the cost of freedom. That is the cost of standing against people who want to destroy you. It is high and it is terrible, but the alternative would have been worse. Your entire species would have been wiped out." Sat down heavily. They sent a message. They said they will not return as long as human forces remain on this world. It seems your people are a bigger deterrent than we ever thought. They fear you. They fear your willingness to fight without regard for your own safety. Davis nodded. That was important. That meant the humans would stay. That meant they would have time to rebuild. That meant the sacrifice had not been for nothing. Private Grant wrote a letter home. His hands shook as he held the pen. Dear Mom and Dad, I'm alive. I'm okay mostly. I killed people in this war. I watched friends die. I saw things I wish I had not seen, but I also helped save an entire species from being destroyed. There were aliens here, people like us in all the ways that matter. They were going to die. Now they will live. I think that makes what happened worth it, but I am not sure. I do not think I will ever be sure. I will be different when I come home. I know you will see it. I am sorry. But I had to do this. I had to come here and fight. I hope you understand. He did not finish the letter that night. There was too much to say, and he could not find the words. On the 5th day after the battle ended, a memorial service was held. Human soldiers came together to honor the dead. Commander Davis spoke to the gathered crowd. We came to this world because a people asked for help. We came because we believe that the innocent deserve protection. We fought because that is what we are, what we do. We lost 2,000 of our own. The lost millions, but we won. They are gone. The will survive. He paused and looked at the faces of the soldiers in front of him. The people who died here died so that others could live. That is the highest purpose any of us can serve. They will not be forgotten. On earth, their names will be remembered. In the hearts of they will be remembered. They gave everything so that an entire species could have a future. That is a legacy worth dying for. Ambassador stepped forward and added his own words in the language. His voice was thick with emotion. When he finished, his people wept openly. That night, Commander Davis made his decision. He sent a message to Earth Command. The invasion has been stopped. The people will survive. I am recommending that we establish a permanent military presence on 442B. The only respect strength. Our presence here will prevent any future invasion. Additionally, I recommend we begin formal alliance talks with a human partnership could be valuable for both our species. Request authorization to proceed with permanent settlement and alliance formation. The response from Earth came quickly. The Council approved all his recommendations. Humanity would have a presence on 442B. Humanity would have an ally among the stars. Private Grant stood looking out at the recovering city. Reconstruction had already begun. They were rebuilding their world. Humans helped them, working side by side with the aliens. Grant realized something in that moment. They had not just won a battle. They had started something new, something that would change the galaxy. Humans had shown that they would fight for the innocent. Other species would remember that. Other species would remember that humans would cross space to protect those who could not protect themselves. 6 months had passed since from 442B. The planet was changing. New bases were built for the human military presence. Trade routes were established between Earth and the world. The alliance between the two species was becoming real. Commander Davis walked through the new Joint Defense Center. Humans worked side by side. Human military officers trained soldiers in combat tactics. Scientists shared their technology with human engineers. The two species were learning to work together. Davis met with Ambassador in the diplomatic center. The ambassador looked healthier now, less burdened by grief. The reconstruction of society had given people purpose. The formal alliance treaty is complete, said. It is being sent to your government for final approval. Once signed, it will be official. The Inhumans will be bound together. Good, Davis said. This is what should happen. Two species who understand the value of protecting the innocent, bound together for mutual defense and mutual support. Smiled, a gesture that had learned from humans. Your people came to us as warriors, but you are also builders and teachers. Your soldiers are training our people to defend ourselves. Your doctors are teaching our medical professionals new techniques. Your engineers are helping us rebuild. That is what allies do, Davis said. We help each other grow stronger. In the medical facility, Dr. Lane trained doctors. She had learned their biology well enough to teach them about trauma medicine and emergency care. One of her students was a young named who had lost family in the invasion. The key is to stay calm, told. When everything is chaos, the doctor must be the stable point. If you panic, your patients will panic. If you stay calm and focused, you can save lives even in the worst situations. Absorb the knowledge quickly. They were brilliant at learning. They took what humans taught them and improved on it, had learned to respect her students' intelligence. Private Oliver Grant was now Corporal Oliver Grant. He led a joint training program for soldiers. The program taught them human combat tactics, human philosophy of warfare, and human values about protecting the innocent. A young soldier named asked him during a training session, "Why did you come? Why did you risk so much for us?" Grant thought about that question. He had asked himself the same thing many times. "Because you asked for help," he said finally. "Because when someone is dying and you can save them, you do. It is that simple. It is also that complicated. We came because it was right. That is all the reason any of us need." Nodded. The young was learning what it meant to be a soldier, but also what it meant to be a soldier who fought for something bigger than conquest. The cities rebuilt slowly but steadily. New buildings rose to replace what they had destroyed. Gardens grew again. Schools reopened. Children played in the streets, alive because of the humans who had fought and died to save them. One morning, Private Grant was on patrol in one of the rebuilt cities when a child approached him. The child was small, maybe 6 years old by human standards. It looked up at Grant with those large eyes. "Are you human?" the child asked in basic English, which was being taught to all young. "Yes," Grant said, "I am." "My mother says humans saved us," the child said. "My mother says humans fought so we could live." Grant knelt down so he was at eye level with the child. "That is true. We fought because your people needed help. We fought so you could have a chance to grow up and do big things with your life." The child reached out and touched Grant's arm, the gesture of respect and gratitude. It was a small moment, but it meant everything to Grant. Word of the Human Alliance spread across the galaxy. Other species heard about how a young human civilization had crossed vast distances to save an alien species from extinction. Other species heard about human warriors who fought with no regard for their own safety. Other species began to wonder if they could count on humans the same way they had. 6 months after the alliance was signed, the first group of aliens from another species arrived at 442b. They were a peaceful species that had also been threatened by They came to ask if humans would help them too. Commander Davis met with the representatives. They were nervous, uncertain if the humans would help outsiders or if they only helped They asked for help and we came, Davis told them. If you are facing a threat and you ask for help, we will consider your request seriously. Humans do not turn away from people in need. The left hopeful. They were not alone anymore. They had allies. They had humans. A week later, Davis received word that another species had sent a message. Then another. It seemed that the galaxy had been waiting to see what humans would do. Now they had seen, and they wanted to be part of something bigger. Dr. Lane wrote in her journal late one night. She was exhausted from her work, but it was a good kind of tired. "We came to save one species, but I think we may have done something bigger. I think we have shown the galaxy what it means to be human. We are not the strongest. We do not have the most advanced technology, but we will fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. We will cross any distance, pay any price to protect the innocent. And I think that is going to change everything." Sergeant Mitchell stood in the new human military base, watching young soldiers train under human supervision. He saw them learning discipline and courage. He saw them becoming warriors not because they wanted conquest, but because they wanted to protect their people. Mitchell had lost friends in the battle for 442b. He carried their names in his heart, but seeing what their sacrifice had created made it bearable. seeing a whole species survive, seeing a new alliance between humans, and seeing the beginning of something that would change the galaxy, it made the cost worth it. Corporal Oliver Grant stood with Ambassador and watched the sunset over 442B. The sky turned colors that Grant had never seen on Earth. The air smelled different. The world was alien, and yet, in the months since arriving, it had become familiar. "You know what I think," Grant said. "I think they made a mistake. I think they looked at you and saw weakness. They saw a species of scholars and artists, and they thought you would be easy to destroy." "We were weak," said. "We could not fight them alone." "You were not weak," Grant corrected. "You were smart. You knew when you needed help. You had the courage to ask, and you had the hope that someone would answer." Grant turned to look at the Ambassador. "That is not weakness. That is strength. And humans understand strength like that. We came because we understood that reaching out for help when you are desperate is the bravest thing any person or any species can do." Put his hand on Grant's arm, the gesture of deepest respect. "Your species will be remembered forever on 442B, the Ambassador said. "We will teach our children about the day the humans came from across the stars to save us. We will tell them that in the darkness, when the fire rained down from the sky, humans stood with us. We will tell them that humans chose to protect us even when they had never met us. And we will tell them that because of that choice, we all have a future." Grant looked at the children playing in the reconstructed parks, their lives saved by human sacrifice. He thought about the 2,000 soldiers who would never go home. He thought about the millions of who had died before the humans arrived. And he understood that this was why he had come. This was why they had all come. A message from Earth arrived that night. It announced the formal alliance treaty between humanity and the people. It also announced that the United Planets of the galaxy had invited humans to join their council. Humanity was not just a part of galactic civilization anymore. Humanity was a leader. Commander Davis sent a message back to Earth. It was simple and clear. "Humanity will honor this trust. We will protect the innocent. We will stand against those who prey on the weak. We will build alliances based on mutual respect and shared values. This is what we are. This is who we have always been." On 442B, the human soldiers and civilians continued the work of rebuilding. They worked together. They learned from each other. They built something new. They built proof that different species could stand together. They built proof that humanity was worthy of the responsibility it had taken on. And in the quiet moments, when the work was done and the sun set over the alien landscape, humans stood together and looked out at a galaxy that was beginning to understand what it meant to have humans as allies. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had started the change by answering a desperate call across the void.